Welcome back guys sa aking channel at dito nga ituloy-tuloy kong i-discuss ang statistics part ng business mathematics ng senior high school. At dito nga ay detalyado kong tatalakayin ang constructing group frequency table. Ang topic na ito ay leading para makompute natin ang mean, median, and mode of group distribution or group data. Group frequency table is a statistical table that summarizes and describes a set of data in a class intervals. Example 1, the following are the examination rating in percentage for 60 employees in promotional ranking. Construct a frequency table with 8 class intervals. In our step 1, from a set of quantitative data, determine the range. The range is maximum minus minimum or the highest minus lowest scores. In this data, 85 is the highest, 35 is the lowest. 85 minus 35 is 50, so therefore, the range of this data is 50. For our step 2, decide on the number of class intervals or X. The desirable class interval is 5 to 20. Based on the given example, the desired number of class intervals is 8, so the value of x equals 8. Step 3, determine the class width or the interval. The formula to get the interval is I equals r, which is the range, over x, which is the number of classes. In our problem, the range is 50 and the number of class intervals is 8. 50 divided by 8 equals 6.25, which is to be rounded up to 7. Therefore, the class width is 7 of the desired number of classes, which is 8. Step 4, we are now ready to construct the class interval with lower and upper limits. The first lower limit may be less than or equal to the minimum and 3. So it can be 35, 34, 33, and so on. The first lower limit should be a number divisible by the size width or the I, which is 7. Since 35, the lowest score, is already divisible by 7, so 35 will be our first lower limit. Since the class width is 7, our class interval will be 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, and 41. Or, the first class interval is 35 to 41. To get the next interval, and since the class width equals 7, we will add to the lower limit 35 plus 7 equals 42. Same what we will do to the upper limit. We will add 7 to 41 equals 48. So, our second class interval is 42 to 48. To get the next interval, 7 will be added to 42. We have 49. 7 will be added to 48, which is 55. The third class interval is 49 to 55. Same process will continue until you reach the 8th class interval, which is 84 to 90. And that is now the complete 8 class intervals as the problem required. Next, step 5. Tally or count the scores falling within a class interval. The tally in each group is called the frequency denoted by lowercase f. On the first interval, 35 to 41, we have 6 scores. So write 6 in column F aligned to the first interval. On the next interval, 42 to 48, we have 5 scores. The same, write 5 on column F aligned to the second interval. To make the tallying or counting process easier, kindly cross out all the scores already counted. To continue, repeat the process of counting or tallying the scores in every class interval until you counted on the last interval, which is 84 to 90. And lastly, kindly add the frequency. And that is now the table after step 5. Moving on to step 6, find the class boundaries or also called the true limits. To find the lower limits, we will subtract 0.5 to each of the lower limits. To find the upper boundaries, we will add 0.5 to each of the upper limits. Step 7, find the class mark or the midpoint of each class interval. It is the average of the limits in the class interval. To find the class mark or midpoint, the formula is x of m equals lower limit plus upper limit divided by 2. The first class mark is 38, came from the sum of the lower limit 35 and the upper limit 41, which is 76, divided by 2 equals 38. Same process will continue until you reach the class mark of the last class interval 84 to 90, which is 87. Step 8, find the relative frequency if needed. Particularly, it will be used on finding the median and mode. These are the percentages of cases in each group. To find the relative frequency or percentages in each class, the formula is frequency of each class divided by total number of data times 100. Example, the relative frequency in the first class is 6 over 60 times 100. 6 over 60 equals 0.1 times 100 equals 10. That's why the relative frequency of the first class is 10%. Continue to repeat the process until you completed all the relative frequency of the 8 class intervals. Then add all the relative frequencies. The sum must be 100%. Step 9, determine the less than cumulative frequency if needed. To get this, just follow what is written on the screen. To illustrate step 9, the first less than cumulative frequency is the same as with its frequency, and that is 6. To get the next less than cumulative frequency, 6 will be added to its next frequency, which is 5. 6 plus 5 equals 11. To proceed, 11 will be added to the next frequency, which is 12. 11 plus 12 equals 23. 23 is the next less than cumulative frequency. 23 represents also the sum of the first 3 frequencies, 6 plus 5 plus 12. Same process will be repeated until you reach 60 as the total number of entries or data. And that's it. There you have a statistical table or frequency table for group data. This table now is ready for computation of measures of central tendencies like mean, median, and mode, and measures of variability like, for instance, variance, standard deviation, and others. Again, to simplify the steps in constructing a group frequency table, just find the following. Number 1, range. Number 2, size width. Number 3, class frequencies. Number 4, class boundaries. 5, class mark or midpoint. 6, relative frequency or percentages. And number 7, less than cumulative frequency. Muli, kung nakatulong sa inyo ang video na ito, please like. At huwag na rin pong kalimutang mag-subscribe at pakishare na rin po para makatulong din tayo sa iba.